A Brief History of Education, Part 2. Under the leadership of Horace Mann, 1796 to 1859, Massachusetts developed the notion of the common school or the public school, which would protect, quote, society, this is a quote from Horace Mann, protect society against the giant vices which now invade and torment it, against intemperance, avarice, war, slavery, bigotry, the woes of want, and the wickedness of waste, unquote. It may be an easy thing to make a republic, Mann once said, but it is a very laborious thing to make a republican. Massachusetts developed the first graded schools in the United States, and in 1852 it became the first state to mandate that every child between the ages of 8 and 14 receive at least 3 consecutive months of education during the course of 1 year. Compulsory education spread slowly to the other states, with Mississippi being in 1916 the last state to require education for everyone. The states of the Confederacy didn't begin adopting compulsory education until well after the 1896 Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court ruling that segregation was constitutional as long as separate but equal facilities were provided. Progressive ideas about the quality and perfectibility of the human being through education motivated the early movement toward universal education, and immigration and the increasing urbanization of society forced the issue. In the past 100 or so years, state-supported education transformed the mass of the population of the industrialized world from rural agriculturalists into liberal urban workers, literate urban workers. This was a one-time event which, through the resulting increase in the productivity of labor, played a major role in increasing living standards. The small cost of teaching the son of a farmer enough reading and writing to be a productive factory worker was repaid manifold by the increased value of the goods he could produce. Part of the mission of the common school or the public school is to develop a common national identity by limiting people's natural enclaving tendencies. The present system of medium authoritative education succeeds only with children who come from families and cultures that enforce a minimal level of discipline and obedience. The number of commentators, a number of critics of education have argued that the excessive freedom of the West makes it difficult for the undisciplined to successfully navigate around the many seductive distractions and deadly temptations that society permits. It's kind of interesting. Obedient Confucian societies, which tolerate fewer behavioral options, are better adapted to Western educational methods than in the West. I think that's quite an irony. The failure of the common school to educate millions of students to the level they need to survive in a global society is a matter of grave national concern. And what accounts for this failure? What accounts for the failure of contemporary public education is that schools are bad for kids. And this now we're entering into the reconstructivist perspective on education. It makes them unhappy, and as tests show, they do not learn much at all. At least not learning those subjects and ways of thinking and behaving that status quo consensus deems important and necessary. Be back with part 3.